I don't have a white man. All right, so I put this together for you guys tonight. Old school, new school. Like, a lot of people love to say that everyone this generation has everything so easy, that the world is like way simpler now. That's total bullshit. All the older people, you guys had shit made. It's incredible. Like back in the day with like all landline phones, you could just talk to your friend, be like, okay, I'll be there, leave the house, and then it's just a fucking guessing game if you ever show up. There was no last minute text like, hey, could you just stop at Whole Foods real quick because Diane showed up? And she needs almond milk, but it's a particular brand. Anyway, I sent you some photos. If you don't see it at first, just talk to one of the staff people there. It's always in a weird spot. Like, there's none of that shit. You show up late, no one's like, oh, it should have only taken you 7. There's no GPS. No one knew how long it took to get anywhere, and nobody harassed you about any of it. I want to thank all the comics for coming out. It's super great. But you know, movies in the future are going to be really boring, right? Because right now, with technology the way it is and being able to keep track of everybody, like you don't have the people just like getting murdered. All that cool serial murder stuff that the women love to masturbate to now, from all the shit that went down in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we're going to be so protected in the future, none of that good murder porn is going to be there for you. And right now, everyone's so reliant on technology. The most inspirational movie in theaters in 2030 is going to be about a guy who made it 4 miles without his cell phone. It's going to be like incredible, starring Denzel Washington. It's going to be great. I miss, you guys had this wonderful time where you could just lie. Remember that?
Still do that.
Remember you could just lie and no one could fucking prove you wrong at all?
Still do it.
Like back before 2000, right? You guys could just leave the house one day, go to another city, start a whole new fucking family, right? Impregnate a woman, come back to your house 2 weeks later and be like, baby, I don't know what happened. We went on a fishing trip, we ran out of gas. We were just waiting to float to shore. And she's like, well, that explains the fishy smell. Anyway, dinner's ready in 20. And now the guy's got 3 fucking kids in 3 different cities. It's amazing. Miss those days. You could just go missing, and no one really knew where the fuck you were going. You're just like, you know what? This is where I live now, and this is where my family's from. You guys had it made. Hold on, what else? You guys didn't have to know shit. Right? You didn't have the wealth of the internet readily accessible. So if you don't know something, people weren't like, well, could you just look it up for a second? If you didn't know anything, you're like, look, I'm dumb. Guess what? Everyone else I fucking talked to was dumb too, right? There was that one person who like fell asleep every night watching Jeopardy. You just avoided that guy because he knew way too much shit anyway. And all your really smart friends you'd know because you show up to their house and they were the one people wealthy enough to afford a $12,000 fucking Encyclopedia Britannica. They're like, well, we're thinking about having kids, but first we gotta pay this shit off. Then we got a budget, you know. She's been wanting a daughter, let's see if we can make one. You guys didn't have to know a fucking thing. You could say whatever you wanted, right? Racism just kind of like lived out in the open. I'm Hispanic, I know I listen to that shit. Right? And now, dude, you could lose your job today for something you wrote in the back of someone's fucking yearbook 16 years ago. You'd be like, look, that was a different time for me. I was mostly surviving on Skittles and fucking Surge. I don't feel that way anymore about Hondurans, and I apologize. I do really need this job, though. Speaking of jobs, you guys could buy a newspaper for 25 cents. Look in the back of the newspaper at a slew of fucking jobs, right? There's so many jobs you'd walk for 5 minutes and trip over 2 of them bitches. Be like, do you want a job getting rid of that job you just tripped over? Anyway. Then you'd go and you'd call and they'd be like, well, okay, you know how to use a phone? You seem like you can hold a conversation. You want to start Monday? You want to start Monday? Back then your skill set, like no offense you guys, but back then your skill set, it was just like, how do you feel about the alphabet? You got a pretty good command of the alphabet? Sweet. How about if we pay you enough money to buy a fucking house and you just spend 8 hours keeping these files in alphabetical order. Is that cool for you? Sweet. How do you feel about Dewey Decimal? Is that comfortable for you? Remember when you guys could be ugly? Remember that? You had the luxury, the liberty to just be fucking unattractive, still get laid. Women were flat-chested, men were bald, and you'd still see each other at the same fucking drunken orgy that night. Right, let's go, let's bang this shit out. Now, are you kidding me? Maybe because I'm biased coming from South Florida, but now you can't have one fucking thing wrong with you without somebody being like, look, just as a concerned friend, you know, they have pills for that. You know, there's a pretty inexpensive surgery for that. You could, you know, it's too expensive here. What you could do is you could travel to Colombia, avoid getting kidnapped and held hostage, but you'd save like $600. Tits would look totally natural. What they're basically saying is, how about you go ahead and stay home until you're attractive enough to come back out, you fucking hobbit. You guys could be ugly. We have to be beautiful. It's unfortunate. Speaking of appearance, remember when someone sent you a picture and that's what they actually fucking look like? Right? Or like close to it. Like they're gonna look at least kind of like the photo, right? Like that's just them in black and white standing in front of a World War II plane, you know what I mean? I don't know how old you guys are. I imagine like, look, I didn't fly it, you know? I was just there with my buddy, just being supportive, all right. Now everybody's got Photoshop. You know, it's not that they're not even gonna look like that, it's like you're talking like, you guys remember Ashley Madison scam? Do you guys remember that shit? So it was this thing where a bunch of dudes paid money to fucking cheat on their wife, and they thought they were talking to other hot chicks that were gonna fuck them, right? But it was just a bunch of other lonely dudes. 2 million women and 26 dudes. And half of those 2 million women were bots. Fuck catfishing, like there was no fucking fish on the plate at all. It's just not gonna happen. They don't not just look like that. Like that person doesn't fucking exist, buddy. You're like fucked, but not in a good way. All right. Sorry, you guys had it so good. Shit sucks now. Remember this shit? You guys got paid to smoke cigarettes? You remember that? Marlboro Miles, I don't know, I looked this shit up. Marlboro Miles, Camel Cash. You got paid to smoke. So even if you guys had like an aunt, right? Like, that's how she talked, right? Hey, how's your kids going, alright? Is everything good? You're like, Mommy, get away from the monster. They could be a chain smoker, right? All their good money goes to fucking cigarettes. But they had enough Marlboro Miles or Camel Cash. They're like, what do you want for Christmas? A big red jacket? You got it. What do you want for Christmas? A fucking big red tent? Look, it's Marlboro. It's not my fault. Look through the catalog. Look through the catalog. Just pick anything out. I got enough. Got a whole bunch of fucking thin cardboard in a bucket back there. Just make sure I have enough for an ashtray. Just enough for an ashtray. Paid to fucking smoke. Then they started blaming, right? They're like, we can't have any smoking in movies because that's obvious why people smoking. It's like ridiculous, right? It's like blaming that stuff is like, oh, my kid watched Step Up, thought they could break dance, then they got fucking robbed in the ghetto. I don't want any more Step Up movies, okay? Anyway, you guys had it so good. Remember when you guys could like meet people outside at like a fucking Blockbuster or Sam Goody or whatever the fuck was out there in that time? You met people at the mall, right? At the mall. You're out like, look, I'm gonna run errands and possibly also find my husband. Who knows? Who the fuck knows, right? But now everybody shops online. You're not gonna be looking through your fucking Amazon shopping cart and be like, you know what goes really well with these shoes? Tina, she's single, 1.5 miles away. Loves to dance. Really fan of brown. Go with the brown instead of the black leather style. You're not gonna find that shit. Speaking of dating, you guys had way better odds. Way better odds in the dating scene back in the day. Before fucking 2000. Oh my god, you go to a club or a bar, some guy has the balls to be like, yeah, I'm available, I'm single. You look around, you're like, I guess this will work. Fuck, this day, doesn't matter how good, the conversation could be going great. She's like, if you just excuse me for a second, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom real quick. Fucking scrolls through, you have 368 available singles in a 1.5 mile radius. You're like, you know what? You know what? I know a bird in the hand's better than worth two in the bush, but you're not getting anywhere near my bush. Not really. Actually, I try. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying. It's true. The dating scene was, it was like basically you were just vetted. You're like, look, I know someone who knows this guy. To our knowledge, he hasn't murdered anybody. So let's go for it. And now it's like, even if like you have like a 96%, I don't know how the fucking dating sites work, but like I imagine people fill out a quiz and like they got 85% of the questions right. So like you're a B plus, but I'm gonna wait for a fucking A student. I don't know. I assume that's how it works. Do you guys remember like undivided attention and eye contact? Holy shit. You guys had that stuff, right? Now, I mean, no matter where you go, like, are you even talking to me? Are you looking at me? Can you pay attention to me? Undivided attention and eye contact. Right now, there's a young couple fucking right now. The dude is finishing up a work email, right? Like mid-thrust. And she's over this way, like posting pictures of lunch on fucking Instagram. What do you think? What do you think real quick? Is that... Okay, but how do I change the lighting though? Do you know how to do that? I'm sorry, babe, I gotta catch up on this email, you know how it is. Undivided attention and eye contact. Remember, like, fellas, like back in the day, men actually had a fucking chance of satisfying a woman. It was incredible. Women, like, just knew to fake. They were like, it's a courtesy fake, real quick. And you knew you weren't, like, really putting heat in there, but you, like, heard her moan a few times. You thought it was because she was coming. It's really because, like, you turned her ankle in a weird way. But anyway, you had a chance of satisfying a woman. Now she has a Roomba at her house that can give her a better orgasm than any fucking thing you got. You know what I mean? And since it has a Bluetooth speaker, it can play sensual music while it's doing it. And guess what? When she's done, it cleans up afterward. It's fucking incredible. You can't fuck her like a Roomba. Are you kidding me? And since everything's easier and more accessible, we're addicted to fucking everything, right? Young people, yes, we're addicted to fucking... Porn addiction? Shit. In the 80s, 90s, there's no such thing as a fucking porn addiction. Can you imagine? Like, honey, I don't know what's going on. It's been 1 month that we've gone through 3 VCRs. What's happening here? Also, did you record a sex video over Bambi? Our kids are traumatized. What is wrong with you? These VCRs are $400. How are we going to afford encyclopedia? It's crazy. There's a bunch of stuff we can't say. You can't. Doesn't matter how slow they talk or how difficult it is for them to understand. You can't call people retarded. You have to call them Texans or something. I don't know. Jason, where are you from? Texas, right? I'm sorry, you are from... Okay, anyway. Can't have a gender reveal party. Hold the balloons, guys. Fucking Oregon right now, you have to wait till the kid turns 18. You know what I mean? You just have to wait. You ask them permission. They'll pick out the balloons. They're going to go with purple just to fucking confuse everybody. That's what's happening now. Back in your day, Pluto was just a planet. Now we don't know what the fuck it is. We think it's maybe bisexual. I don't know. We're waiting until we can specifically ask Pluto. It's really ridiculous. And then, speaking of the whole like vanishing thing earlier, yeah. You guys like know about the whole thing of like ghosting? Like back in the day, if someone ghosted you, you could just assume that they were actually dead and just haunting you. You know what I mean? Like now you're like, maybe I sent a search party because you can't handle rejection, right? So ghosting thing is so bad. You know, like, we live in a very haunted city, haunted place, but now people ask me, do you believe in ghosts? And I'm like, no, I'm sure she's busy with work. You know what I mean? She's got a dog. It's an emotional support animal, but, like, it cries when she leaves, so I don't know what the fuck's going on with that thing. But I want to come up with a cool show called, like, Ghost Hunters, you know? We don't look for supernatural beings. We just go to local bars trying to find out why Stacy hasn't called John back in 4 days. It's gonna be a pretty popular show. You guys have been great. Thank you so much.
Mr. Christopher Anthony.